In the last 4 Pokémon generations, Game Freak introduced new battle mechanics to shake up the core gameplay. Gen 9 gave us Terastallization, Gen 8 gave us Dynamax, and Gen 7 gave us Z-Crystals. But I think the most iconic and popular of them all came in Generation 6 with the introduction of Mega Evolutions. Okay, hold up. I realize now that this little thing here is the same color as the green screens. It's time to go full Ash mode. And with the recent release of Pokemon Legends ZA, came 26 brand new Mega Evolutions, bringing the total amount of Mega Evolved Pokemon to 74. And a lot of these Mega Evolutions were honestly amazing. Incredible designs like Mega Gardevoir and Mega Gengar, and even goofy designs like Mega Ampharos. These Megas became fan favorites instantly, and also warped the competitive metagame around them. So while I do enjoy a lot of the Mega Evolutions, I do think that fundamentally, Mega Evolutions have a lot of problems that negatively affect how Game Freak designs and balances Pokemon, and I think it needs to be discussed. I do want to clarify that I personally enjoy this gimmick, but I think after this video, you might end up agreeing with me, and you'll see that the way Game Freak implemented Megas could have been done a lot better and a lot more thoughtfully. So, let's discuss the problem with Mega Evolutions. Not all Pokemon are created equally. Some Pokemon are shafted when it comes to their stats, move pool, ability, and they look like they should evolve, but they don't. Looking at you, Ledian. So every now and then, Game Freak will bless a poor soul with a cross-generational evolution, evolving them after their debut generation. And this has led to the creation of so many incredible Pokemon. Mamoswine, Roserade, Kingdra, Annihilape, Scizor, and Kingambit, just to name a few. These cross-generational evolutions breathe new life into the Pokemon that receive them, becoming fan favorites and even strong Pokemon competitively. And in some cases, these evolutions accidentally make the original Pokemon even better. Pokemon like Magmar, Murkrow, Dusclops, Porygon 2, and Electabuzz all got better after getting an evolution, because they could now hold the Eviolite item, which makes not fully evolved Pokemon a lot bulkier than they normally would be. Sure, not every evolution is gonna be incredible. Probopass exists to prove it, but I really do love when Pokemon makes these cross-generational evolutions. But when Mega Evolutions were introduced in Generation 6, many Pokemon that would have loved a regular evolution instead received a Mega Evolution. Now, some of these Mega Evolutions were meta-defining like Mega Kangaskhan and Mega Mawile, but then there's Banette, a Pokemon whose Mega is, for lack of a better word, doo-doo. It never saw any competitive success in VGC, singles, or otherwise. But it could have been a different story if this was just a regular evolution, which would allow it to hold an item. Also, from a design perspective, Mega Banette looks so much different than Banette, it would have cooked as a regular evolution design. And even if that regular evolution still ended up sucking, maybe Banette with an Eviolite could have done something interesting as a bulky support ghost type. Kinda like Dusclops. My point is, if a Pokemon could just evolve, it should have had the opportunity to do that in the first place before it was given a Mega Evolution. Could you imagine a world where my boy Mamoswine didn't exist, but instead we had Mega Piloswine? I don't want to live in that world. I like my Chunky Mammoth the way he is. So Game Freak ended up giving Mega Evolutions to a lot of Pokemon that would have benefited from a regular evolution tremendously. And a lot of these Megas were kind of bad and just forgotten completely. Altaria, Audino, Sharpedo, Houndoom, and Glalie are all examples of this. Pinsir hurts me the most because he's the generational opposite of Scyther, and Scyther got his own cross-generational evolution in the form of Scizor, who is my favorite Pokemon of all time besides Cubone. And they just never did that for Pinsir. Instead, they gave him a Mega that changes his vibe completely. He's like a flying type now. I know he was good in singles, but that doesn't change the fact that I just don't really like Mega Pinsir. And Mega Pinsir will never be the equivalent of how awesome Scizor was for Scyther. And hilariously, one of the main reasons I made this video was when I saw the list of new Mega Evolutions, and one of them was Mega Scrafty. Mega Scrafty was a little disheartening to find out about, because if any Pokemon could benefit from having an evolution and holding an Eviolite, it would have been this dude. He was already pretty decent in the past, but he got super outclassed by the best Pokemon of all time, Incineroar. But he could have seen a revitalized career as a bulky Eviolite Intimidate user, with a lot of cool tools at his disposal. But now that he has a Mega Evolution, that reality will never be realized. Also, side note, Mega Scrafty's design is kind of whack. He just got like a new jacket. That's pretty weak. Now, I know that not all Pokemon are meant to be good, but now that these Pokemon got bad Megas, they won't really ever get another chance to be strong in the future. Especially because in the last 2 generations, Mega Evolutions just didn't exist, which meant that all of the Pokemon that got Megas, even the bad ones, couldn't even do it if they wanted to. But since they already got a Mega Evolution before, Game Freak won't give them a regular evolution anymore. At least so far they haven't. I wouldn't mind if they got rid of Mega Glalie and just let Glalie evolve. I don't think anyone would care. But as of recording this, Game Freak has never given a Pokemon an evolution if they already got a Mega Evolution. So now, in generations that don't have Mega Evolutions, so many Pokemon are just completely useless, unless Megas come back permanently. But with this precedent already set, future games can forgo Mega Evolutions completely. And this hurts even more when the Mega Evolutions are actually really good, like Mega Mawile and Mega Kangaskhan. Mega Mawile was very strong in singles and in VGC, and Mega Kangaskhan was so good it got nerfs. But then in the next generation without Mega Evolutions, both of these Pokemon went back to being weak and unusable. And while Mawile would have been a great candidate for a regular evolution, I think Kangaskhan is actually a great example of my next issue with Mega Evolutions. Game Freak rarely, if ever, gives Pokemon straight buffs to their stats. But when they do, it usually doesn't move the needle too much anyways. Like, did you even know that Noctowl got a +10 special attack stat buff a generation ago? No? I figured. So yeah, Game Freak isn't the greatest at giving Pokemon direct buffs, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't try to do that more. And every now and then, Pokemon will successfully buff Pokemon by giving them great abilities or great moves, like making Pelipper and Torkoal weather setters or giving Azumarill huge power. But to be fair, if you gave any Pokemon huge power, they'd be broken. But the Megas ended up being an easy and kind of lazy way for them to buff Pokemon, especially Pokemon that they didn't feel like would make sense to evolve, like Kangaskhan, Diancie, and Aerodactyl. But I think the solution to make these Pokemon better could have just been small stat buffs, new moves, or new abilities. And these Pokemon could have seen some level of success without the need for a full-on Mega. Aerodactyl is very fast, but it doesn't have the greatest stab moves. Stab meaning same type attack bonus, if you didn't know. But if he just got the moves Brave Bird and Head Smash, combined with his Rock Head ability, I feel like he could see a niche in OU singles and maybe even VGC doubles with very strong recoilless flying and rock moves. But instead, his Mega just gives him Tough Claws and a stupid goatee. It just always felt a little bit underwhelming. When Kangaskhan got a Mega, design-wise, it didn't even change anything. The only thing that happens when it Mega evolves is that the baby comes out of the pouch, which is objectively very cute. But I don't think this had to be a Mega evolution. Why not just give base form Kangaskhan the ability Parental Bond in its default form with its default base stats? With a stat spread like this, it would have definitely been a lot more balanced. It would still be good, but not broken. And it's also a simpler way to breathe life into a Pokemon like this. And for Mega Diancie, I don't know what you could do to fix Mega Diancie. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd do. It's not even that bad, it's just like all over the place. I think Mega Evolutions give Game Freak an easy cop-out for trying to actually balance their game. And yes, I know there's 1,000+ Pokemon to balance, but they also make bajillion dollars in profit every single year. It wouldn't even be that difficult. There are so many people that care about this game and know every little thing about it, me included. I really think they should keep trying to buff more Pokemon, but that would require them to care about some forgotten Pokemon, which brings me to my next point. The other gimmicks like Dynamax, Z-moves, and Terrestrialization are universal to every single Pokemon, with some special exceptions in specific Z-moves and Gigantamax, but for the most part, these mechanics could benefit every single Pokemon in this game. But Mega Evolutions are Pokemon specific, which naturally leads to favorites getting Mega Evolutions more often than underrated gems that would have really benefited from a Mega. Weaker, less popular Pokemon like Walrein or Unfezant, like I know they don't have many fans, but they could get a lot of fans if they got the chance to be good. But I bet you a majority of you don't even know these Pokemon exist. Instead, Pokemon that were already good and really didn't need Megas like Tyranitar, Salamence, and Metagross got Megas because, let's be honest, these are some of the most popular Pokemon of all time. Charizard always needed an upgrade, but come on, did he need 2 whole Mega Evolutions? Let's be real. And 2 for Mewtwo? Well, actually, that makes sense. There's 2 in his name. I'll let that one slide. And with Legends ZA, we are seeing it again with Pokemon like Greninja and Dragonite getting new megas. And if you've kept up with competitive singles and doubles, Greninja has been OP forever in singles, and Dragonite in doubles is a menace, so they didn't need the help. Then you get a mega like Garchomp. That is the most pointless thing to ever exist. It's objectively worse than base Garchomp being slower for no reason, and you know it was only chosen because, come on, it's Garchomp. He was on Cynthia's team, duh. But this becomes a slippery slope. Unlike the other generational gimmicks, you really can't give every Pokemon a Mega, so it just becomes 100% up to Game Freak to decide who deserves one and who doesn't. And it doesn't give the flexibility and freedom the player base would normally have with other gimmicks like Dynamax and Terastallization. And because you can only Mega Evolve once per battle, it means that the entire competitive meta usually revolves around the limited pool of Mega Evolved Pokemon, where every single team will always have at least one. And I think that severely limits creativity and team building that we've been seeing with more recent competitive VGC. Megas end up feeling like restricted Pokemon in a way that warps the meta. Some of these megas are just kind of bad and make already great designed Pokemon worse competitively or just worse looking, which I know is subjective, and there are a lot of these designs that I feel like people are going to defend in the comments. Feel free to do so. I can't stop you. When a Mega Evolution is competitively worse than the original Pokemon, it's because the extra stats are distributed poorly, like giving a Pokemon a bunch of special attack when they're a physical attacker, or a bunch of defense when they are a fast sweeper. I've already talked about Mega Garchomp and how that Mega ended up being worse overall, but I also think he looks worse too, with sights for hands? Like, why would Garchomp want that? He had great little nubs before. This just seems like it'd be cool if you were an edgy 13-year-old. And some Megas get a worse ability than their original. In competitive singles, Mega Slowbro was really never that useful because you lose Regenerator, which is one of the most broken abilities in singles. Some Megas get worse because they can't hold an item anymore. Mega Alakazam on paper seems like he'd be very strong, but because he's almost as frail as regular Alakazam, he's worse off in doubles because he can't even hold a Focus Sash. Big Man Blastoise. Mega Blastoise loses a cannon, and I just feel like he loses a lot of his sauce. And also getting the ability Mega Launcher, but without any water move outside of Water Pulse, that's definitely a choice, Game Freak. Now, some of the new Megas, I won't know how strong they will actually be, since they don't have abilities in ZA, and the way you battle is a bit different, but Mega Starmie, what the f are you doing, bro? Mega Feraligatr, keep your hoodie on, otherwise you look dumb as hell. And Mega Victory Bell? Actually, this design? I kinda love it. Mega Greninja feels like the laziest design. Like, watch me design him right now. But the actual worst design was Mega Rayquaza, who is the only Mega that didn't require a Mega Stone, meaning it could also hold an item. This thing was so broken, it was the first Pokemon banned from singles Ubers, which if you don't know is the Smogon tier where banned Pokemon go. So he was banned from the banned tier. I'm pretty confident that everybody has a Mega Evolution design that they just absolutely despise. So let me know in the comments down below, what's your least favorite Mega Evolution? And why is it Mega Manectric? I know he has a lot of fans, I just think his design looks so stupid. Overall, my main point is that I do enjoy Mega Evolutions conceptually, but I'm just not a fan of how Game Freak arbitrarily gave some Pokemon Megas and others none. If Megas are here to stay, and I assume we'll eventually be getting more, I hope that Game Freak really only gives it to Pokemon that can't evolve anymore and really need it. Because when Megas are done right, like Mega Charizard Y, Mega Scolipede, Mega Gardevoir, and my personal favorite Mega, Mega Gengar, they feel like natural evolutions to these Pokemon. But if they're done wrong, they end up being like these Megas that you've already forgotten about. And if Megas don't go away again, my main fear is that we won't see cross-generational evolutions for a while. When Megas were first introduced in Generation 6, they took the place of cross-generational evolutions, and we didn't see one until Generation 8. In Generation 10, we can still hold hope in seeing an evolution for Ledian or Sunflora, so I won't give up yet on those Pokemon. But there's also a good chance that we get Mega Ledian and Mega Sunflora, and that would honestly be very disappointing. But that is ultimately my problem with Mega Evolutions. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments down below, but with that, I'll catch ya later. You get it? Because it's like Pokemon. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.